I've had a lot of weak moments over the years, and I still have. So I'd say the word is common. Probably everybody here.
No,
huh?
Yes,
Are strong all the time?
no.
What does the song say when you feel weakest? Keep on believing. Jesus is there.
And then I think there's also the case where you've heard the word of the Lord, but you may not understand what He's really saying to you. Or you may not understand how He intends to bring it to pass. And the word seems so simple sometimes, but the Lord is always, at least with me, far more complex than what it appears to be in the simple words that are spoken.
Anyone else?
And it's one thing to look at something that's happened in the past. We can look at this and say, well, why couldn't he understand it? But when it's in there happening and you're in the culture of the region, because Israel and Judah have had problems with the Baals for centuries. And it's not like it wasn't, like he had to go searching for it. It was right there in Jerusalem. As much as we don't like to say that, but it was there. And he's looking at it from his point of view. We're looking back on it with all the knowledge that we have of that history and saying, well, how come he didn't listen? I mean, I do the same thing sometimes. Like you say, God may say something, and I don't quite understand it until maybe 20 years later. And I'm going, oh, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure, I can't think of a time where I felt that God did not have my back. But the question that I would always raise to myself is, am I in a position so that I have the assurance that God would have my back? Am I saying the right things, doing the right things, behaving the right way, so that I have the assurance that God has my back, and if things don't turn out the way I would like them to turn out, it's more because of me than because of Him.
And He still has your back.
Yes, He still has my back.
Verse 9.
And sometimes it works out other than what I would want because He has my back.
Yeah. I'm pondering the conditionality of verse 9. If you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. David.
I was just thinking, if I was in his position, I've done everything wrong. I forgot about God. And then God turns around and says, well, don't worry, I'm going to take care of this for you. I mean, it's like, I don't understand because I haven't been a good boy.
What do we call that?
Where I'd be coming from.
Do we call that grace?
Yeah, but as a human, it's like, the 2 and 2 aren't adding up together here. So it would be very hard to understand.
And I think that's where, again, the Lord shows His powerful love. Because there can be times when the Lord has spoken something and I, Cynthia, could have been acting the fool, cutting the fool, doing everything that I shouldn't have been doing. And guess what? The Lord was with me and He rescued me and He still helped me. And that, to me, what breaks me down and makes me cry before the Lord. When He pours His love out, even in my wickedness, He still is loving me. I appreciate that.
So, yes.
I felt that Ahaz was making decisions all by himself. Usually kings have advisors around them. And it's who you choose as your advisors that can often send you one way or the other. One would hope that he had been raised with a knowledge of God and God's faithfulness. But people are people and choose a certain path. And advisors help them along that path.
I wonder what happened, though.
Well, I think what Carol said is right. I think that what happened was probably his advice. But there was so much going on, and Assyria was doing so much and it's just like us. We see all these people succeeding in what we call success. I mean, and we wonder, well, why are they getting all of this, and why, but we have to know that we don't need all that stuff. God's got our back. God's giving us what we need, and Ahaz didn't realize that. He saw all this other going on, and oh well, if it's good for them, then it's good for me. And
what's the lesson? I mean, if we're going to allow the world and other people's stuff and their situations to distract us, then we hopefully know, right? What's the edict? What's the lesson?
the lesson is to have faith and listen to what God says and not what the world's telling you to do.
Huh?
Maybe when we look at the situation over a long period, God told the nation of Israel, this is how I want you to administer your kingdom. I want judges and judges and judges. People said, we want kings. God says, that's the wrong thing. People insisted on it. He said, you will have kings, and you will have what comes with them. We're seeing all of these things that their decisions have made. Now we have our lives going through here, and many times God will tell us what He would like us to do, and we'll do something else. And when we talk about God having your back, He says, okay, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. You are now going through some troubles here that have been brought on by your own disobedience. But I still love you. I am still with you. I am going to give you every opportunity to come back to me. I love the verse in the New Testament says, He is not willing that any should perish. Any. And I'm part of that any.
When Joshua took the children of Israel across the Jordan and they claimed the land, what did God say to Joshua? In Joshua chapter 1. He says, be strong and courageous. Verse 9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage, be not afraid? The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So you have to take that as an assurance, regardless of what is happening. The promise, God is with us all the time. The song says, in the morning when the joy bells chime, in the evening when lights are low, our God is with us. Everywhere we go, you have to hold on to that promise. Even if it seems as though you're going through what the psalmist calls the valley of the shadow of death. What's the next line?
Fear no evil.
Because God is with us all the time. That's the I'm here. That Ahaz was given that promise that in spite of his wanderings and his lack of loyalty, that God was still with him. He couldn't believe it. He's thinking, there's no, as David said, no way. Given the life I'm living, there's no way you could still have my back. But the prophet was telling him, the Lord has your back. He says, I'll read it again. Verse 4. Be calm. Don't be afraid. Do not lose heart. Because these two countries are smoldering stubs of firewood. In other words, I got the situation. And you got to trust me. If you will not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all.
I think it's a very powerful thing that's being put before Ahaz, because the Lord is basically saying to him, don't put your trust in horses and chariots. Put your trust in me. Don't pledge your allegiance to anything or anyone. Pledge allegiance to me, or re-pledge allegiance to me. And I think that's again, one of these very powerful lessons for me in 2017 and going into 2018. You cannot put your trust in the systems of this world. They are not designed to produce holiness. You have to put your trust in Jesus and His blood.
Yes.
I struggled deeply this week over what I consider a Bible principle that says, as children of a sovereign God, we're never victims of our circumstance. We have a niece over here in Jackson who isn't expected to live. She's only 34 years old and she has 4 little children. She isn't expected to live the rest of through this year. And God is in control. I had that weak moment. Is God in control on this one? So she's a committed, wonderful Christian girl.
What did Annie Johnson Flint say in that song? God has not promised skies always blue, flower-strewn pathways all life through. He has not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain.
That's in the songbook?
He has not told us we shall not know trouble, but God has promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, undying love. So it might not look like this is a great life, but we have to remember that this is a jot and a tittle, because eternal life goes on. What does the kid say? It lasts forever. So this, in context, a little suffering now for me to live as Christ and to die. A little suffering now for the reward.
You got the big picture, man.
Big picture, yeah. We all need to get the big picture. This is almost meaningless compared to what God has in store for us.
Yeah, but in those terrible moments, like maybe you just described, and you and I, we've had our own terrible moments. That's where you just have to double down and say, Lord, I'm going to trust you, that you know what I do not know. And your thoughts are higher than my thoughts, and your ways are higher than my ways. To me, that's where you just re-establish, reconnect, rehearse in your own heart and mind that even if you slay me, I'm still going to walk with you. So I totally understand that moment where it looks like, what? But that's where we say this is those moments of faith where the rubber meets the road. Either we believe it, we trust Him, we love Him, we walk with Him, or we don't.
My own sister right now is, I don't know, waiting for a call. I got a call yesterday at 7 in the morning. I kept thinking, okay, got to buy a ticket. So I understand that very well. I'm looking forward to trying to see her next week when I go home because, I don't know how much longer she has. So I understand that very, very intimately, yes.
See, and I agree with everything she said, but that's why when you talk about God has my back, I think that Ahaz is not looking at it from a spiritual level. He was looking at it at a purely physical level. Right. And God does not, He has our back. He's always with us. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to suffer the consequences of even death. Physical destruction.
I think the prophet was telling him that the Lord had his back in a physical sense too. Be calm.
He probably was, but I don't think Ahaz could trust God. He wasn't trusting God at that point, so he didn't understand that.
It's so right, but to the issue of Ahaz, I think many times it's a case of God saving us in spite of ourselves. And some occasions, some of those instances we will never know about, maybe until we get to heaven. But many times God saved us when we didn't want to be saved, or feel like being saved, or know we were being saved. But God saves us in spite of ourselves.
And beyond the saving, it's ongoing saving. When footprints in the sand, we are going through a difficult situation, and He's carrying us, and we don't know He's carrying us. We still feel like we're carrying ourselves, but He's carrying us. So in everything, Paul writes, give thanks, for this is the will of God. In everything, Philippians chapter, in everything give thanks. Let's talk about Immanuel, finally, before the session ends. Question number 7. Why was the sign of Immanuel important for Ahaz and Judah? What do you understand as the sign of Immanuel to Ahaz, and why was that important for Ahaz and Judah? What were they going through, and what was the lesson what was the sign of Immanuel that God was giving Ahaz? This too shall pass. The trial you go through in the present is not enduring. This too shall pass. In fact, the trial that you are psychologically obsessed with, the Lord is courageous enough and upfront enough to say, it will not take place, it will not happen. But we're going to believe, it might happen. So we want that assurance. And we want to put out a fleece too to say, Lord, well, if you say it's not going to happen, prove to me it's not going to happen, because if you don't, I'm going to worry about it. I'm going to anticipate it's going to happen. And it's going to be awful in my own physical and temporal way of viewing things. It is not going to be pleasant. So if you are assuring me it's not going to happen, how can I have that assurance where I'm now at peace? Amidst the storm, how do you find peace in spite of the storm? As opposed to, in our feelings-oriented culture, decide that we're going to wallow in our feelings rather than live above feelings, like the songwriter says, live above feelings. Katie Booth said.
It's called in one word, meditation. When I push everything else out and meditate, then I see only Him. And then I see what's ahead. I see what's behind. Meditation, I think, is so important. You're alone with God. No one else.
A worshiping moment.
Worshiping.
Why would Ahaz, God offered him a sign. Why would Ahaz say no? Because all he had to do was say, okay, hold the sky back 1 hour, or something like that. And he would have a perfect answer, but he said, no, I won't tempt the Lord.
I want you all to look at that verse 12. Okay, verse 10. The Lord spoke to Ahaz, and I don't know if it's true, the prophet, I guess it is. Ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or the highest heights. And Ahaz says, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. So
here's an option. To me it would be like, hey, this is a no-brainer for It's like, make this flower grow in it or something.
I don't know, and does it say anything in their Torah or whatever they were? Because Ahaz had been brought up.
There were other signs in the past.
And so he, to a certain extent, maybe Ahaz
had a plan, and he was going to have that plan followed. And he didn't care what even God said about it. Maybe doing it my way.
Maybe he was afraid that God would answer him, and then he couldn't do what he wanted to do.
Or he didn't care. I will not put the Lord to the test.
We just don't ask permission and just do it ourselves because that's what we want to do. We're afraid somebody will tell us no.
He was king. He was the authority. He did not recognize an authority higher than himself.
He's still a punk kid.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I agree that I think once the sign has been asked and it's been given, now other people have seen the sign, they know you've asked for this sign, and the Lord has demonstrated that He has spoken. And that raises the level of accountability for Ahaz. And so what do? I think his comment sounds very religious.
Yeah, well,
and so, people will give you a very religious answer when...
You mean his arrogant comment?
The comment about, I will not put the Lord to the test. That sounds very religious to me.
Yeah.
It does not sound like... It sounds like something the Pharisees in Jesus' time would say about why they are not supporting their parents. Because I have to give the money to the temple or give the money to whomever. In other words, you're using this kind of religiosity to co-sign the wickedness that's in your heart. And that is not inconsistent with Isaiah chapter 1, where the Lord lays out his case to Judah, saying that you're using all the systems, even the religious systems, to support your wickedness. And so that's what it sounds like to me. You know, that sounds very religious.
So when he says he will not put the Lord to a test and he will not ask for a sign, what does the prophet say to him?
I'm going to give you, the Lord's going to give you a sign. Therefore, I'll give you a sign.
You're going to get a sign anyway.
You're going to get a sign. You've got to change your mind of what you're going to do. And maybe he had enough education in his own country's history to realize that if God said to Moses, don't tempt me, don't test me, back in Deuteronomy, that he had maybe a little bit of a healthy fear, but not enough to act on.
That's what I was saying. You know, he had enough education when he was younger to know what God wanted, what you should do, and what you shouldn't do. Maybe that's why he wasn't going to test him. I don't know.
But it gave God the opportunity to put a little caveat in here.
Yeah.
About the virgin.
Yeah.
And his name. You know, if Ahaz hadn't acted that way, we wouldn't have that little bit of scripture.
That's true.
That's why I said this is a prophecy for a time and a time. The question is, who was the virgin in the current time? Was it Isaiah's wife or was it Ahaz's wife? The prophecy was fulfilled at that point in time, including the idea of curds and honey, which meant that they were going to be oppressed by Assyria at some point. But I want to get back to that Christmas theme thought for us today. Emmanuel, God with us. So my question, why is the sign of Emmanuel important for us? Why is it important for us to be told and assured that God is with us? Why? And the answer is
Because we need to be reminded often as we go through things. It seems like it's especially when we go through tough times, we need to be reminded of that. But I think we need to be reminded of that when things are easy, because we forget that God is with us. We think we're doing it ourselves.
you become an Ahaz. Yeah. So what do you do in your own practice of your faith to have that constant reminder that God is with you?
Well, this is not something we do, it's something we did, and then I always remind myself. Our middle son's name is Immanuel, and we named him that intentionally, not knowing what was to come, but that was the name the Lord gave us to give him. And we call him Manny, but his name is Immanuel. And our middle son has issues, and he struggles, with things. And it's not easy for him in the way that it's easy for other children. And so I think back to his name as he's struggling, that God is with us, and God is with him. And I tell him, God is with you. You got your name, Immanuel, from the Lord. So know that the Lord is with you.
I want to, as I said, our thought, because it's the day before Christmas, and our theme today is the coming and the advent of Christ. I want us to think about that idea. So my reflection question asks, how might you live more assured that God is with you in your home, in our church, in the wider community, as you live your life? What assurances will you have? Or how do you remind yourself that God is with you? You probably know what I do. I look for all the songs that remind me. He walks with me and talks with me and tells me on his own. God is with us all the time. You find some mnemonic, something to help us, to remind ourselves that God is with us, regardless of the circumstances. So what? Share with us. What do you do to remind yourself that God is with you. Yes.
I think that's the work of the Holy Spirit in us that reminds us. Because when I get into trouble with things, then the Holy Spirit comes and reminds me that God is with me. Whatever I go through, He's with me.
I have a plaque on one wall, and it's on a space where I don't always see it. I have to move a door to see it. But I bought it at Christmas time a couple of years ago, and it says, the gift of Christmas is not the presents with a T, the gifts, but is in His presence. And every once in a while I open that door and thought, oh, I forgot that for a while.
Yeah.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, as we focus on the Advent, that you are with us, we pray that you will help us to not only be reminded that you are with us, but we can also assure others that you are with them. Help us to find others who need that comforting thought right now that you are with them, regardless of their circumstances, and help us to reach out to them, even at this time, as we celebrate, as we focus on the wonderful thing you did by sending us Savior so that we could be eternally saved from our wretchedness. May we share this good news, may we rejoice, and may we just live in the glory, knowing that you have our back all the time. So thank you, dear God, for everything you have done, and for all you're going to do for us. May we worship you in spirit and in truth now. May we be a blessing to someone today for Christ's sake. Amen.